As you can see from my attire, I'm back in my studio at my drawing board for this edition of Taking Stock. That's because what I'm doing here is planning a piece of calligraphy which I hope to complete in the next few months. Here's the rough draft that I always make to see if it looks like it might work. And what you'll see about this is you don't understand it, do you? Every single word of it is in Latin. And that's what might strike you about this piece. You don't understand it. 2,000 years ago, if you'd got together a native citizen of Rome and a Greek and told them that one day one of their languages would be dead and unspoken and the other would still be a living Mediterranean tongue, neither of them would have bet on Latin as the candidate for death. Although many people in the eastern part of the empire spoke Greek by first preference, no one was in any doubt as to what the predominant language in the empire was, and the official language, and would always be so. It was Latin. Now, it's true that Latin survived the fall of the Roman Empire, as did much else actually, but let's not get sidetracked. But as a pure language, it pretty soon degenerated and was bastardised by local languages and became subsumed into what became French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, Romansh, and various other tongues which borrowed words and sentence construction and concepts even from Latin and made them their own, including, for all its Germanic roots, and thanks in large part to the Norman conquest, English. But as a living language, Latin did not survive outside the academic world for any appreciable length of time. It became a preserved language, and the preserve in question was that of the rarefied and exclusive world, really, of the medieval universities, and by extension, the church. Ironically, whilst Demotic Greek, Common Greek, which before the Arab conquest of the Middle East was pretty much the common language of the street in every city in the Eastern Mediterranean, whilst it has cheerfully transmuted into the gloriously fluid language we know today, Latin is to all intents and purposes gone. Now I can hear the question you're all aching to pose. What's this got to do with us apart from the fact you're doing some calligraphy in Latin? Well, as a church, that fight was over long ago. William Tyndale may have gone to the stake for the right of English people to hear the Bible in their own language. But his side was the one which won out in the end. Today, there are no major languages without their own transcription of the Bible. And there are some languages which owe their continued existence to those translations of the Bible, including, though whisper it not west of the River Wye, Welsh, which, as we all know, is a Riaith a Nefoith, the language of heaven. So what's it got to do with us? Well, it's this. English became the go-to second language of choice across the world during the 19th and 20th centuries, and the language of international commerce at the same time, perhaps even because of the commerce. Now, nowadays, the effect of that is that most first language Anglophones speak no other language. I mean, why walk around in, say, Germany, as I did, with a T-shirt slogan saying, kein Englisch, nur Deutsch, don't speak English, only German, when everyone ignores your halting efforts at German and speaks to you in fluent, almost unaccented English? I think the gradual domination of English has served monoglot English speakers particularly badly in that way, and rendered them linguistically and culturally colourblind. There's a reason why in Greek there are 4 different words which we translate every time as love in English. And in translating them all the same way, we lose the differences between each of those states. The same goes in other languages closer to home. A Welsh speaking person, knows exactly what the word hiraeth means, But try translating that into English. It's almost impossible. So what am I saying? Well, it's this. Not only does a monoglot Anglophone become impoverished by linguistic arrogance, but so does the church. We use terms in church which are no longer current or even useful. And there are terms and concepts which have passed through the church and into common use, which have come directly from the Bible. For example, as I heard on the radio just this very morning, and which prompted these thoughts to some degree, going the extra mile, passing by on the other side, Good Samaritan, quotations which I'm pretty certain a growing number of people cannot any longer source. They know the quote, don't know where it's from. Now, every profession, interest group and craft has its own specialist vocabulary. Gesso, pounce, gutter and galley, anyone? And so does the church. The problem is that, like a monoglot Anglophone who turns up in a Swyddfa Post in Cymderi, that's the post office to you, and is not only baffled by the incredible sound of Welsh people actually having the effrontery to speak Welsh in Wales, but convinced that they were actually speaking English until the English walked in, we in the church become just as baffled and sometimes just as frustrated when we use terms which are incomprehensible to the modern secular society in which we now live. Salvation, sin, transfiguration and transubstantiation, anyone? And are not just misunderstood, but dismissed as irrelevant. If the church is to continue into the 21st century and beyond, then we have to change the language we use and the medium in which we use it, so that our message is not obscured or even obliterated by the means and the manner in which we try to share it. If our faith language is not one which our listeners share or can understand, then William Tyndale died for nothing, and we may as well still be speaking Latin. And let's be honest, in the words of John Cleese, what have the Romans ever done for us? Cadwch yn ddiogel, pawb. Stay safe, everyone.